A very good afternoon to all of you. When I was interviewing for my job at SmartUp, I joined them as the head of content in 2017. I did what every good candidate should do. I downloaded the app to take a look at how content is done on the platform. And the first thing I noticed was how easy it was to learn something new on the SmartUp platform. And this is not a marketing pitch, yeah? You see, I had zero knowledge of what disruptive tech, entrepreneurship, venture capital, all meant when I joined SmartUp. And so, within that short 15 minutes, I could glean very useful information about tech, entrepreneurship, and venture capital. And this was when I realized that learning content, not all of them are created equal. So I've spent the last 3 years working with numerous organizations to transform their learning content. And I hope the insights coming up will prove useful to those of you involved in content creation, whether for your organizations or for your clients. So the one thing many administrators get wrong about content creation is this, that tech will make boring content unboring. Well, if this was truly the case, then all of us would be renowned bloggers and social media influencers with millions of followers by now. So the differentiator between a normal person using Instagram and a social media influencer is, you guessed it, content. So before you go, but that's different. That's social media. That's not learning. Well, I've got another bombshell coming your way. So you can't teach someone who isn't inspired or interested in the material. You can't engage someone who doesn't even want to give your content a second look. And no matter the content's purpose, whether it's for education or for entertainment, the task of making it engaging falls on human beings, us. Okay? So in a survey, the SmartUp team did amongst our users and amongst our users and connections, we found that video is a preferred mode of instruction for many of them. And this is followed closely by infographics. And while much has been said about our ever decreasing attention span, learning evidently is following the trend of social media, right? Compelling visuals drives better engagement. Okay, but we need to bear in mind that while videos and infographics lead with visuals, many of them actually have other types of media in them. So text in the form of subtitles and captions, and audio in the form of narration and even music. So in effect, a lot of learners, as our survey also uncovered, actually preferred looking at a mix of content formats. Okay, so as a content person, before we move on, I would advise against leaning solely on one format. Even Masterclass complements its instructor's videos with a workbook that you can download as a PDF. So with this in mind, let's look at the 5 quick wins for building stickier learning content. Number 1, think like the learner. As subject matter experts, it's very tempting for us to place ourselves in a position of authority, right? Because we want to come off as looking like we know this better than our learners. But that is not true, and that won't be effective because clearly the thinking process taking place inside a learner's mind is very different from that of the expert. Your learner is looking to pick up new information, find a solution to his problem, or is simply looking for a set of instructions to build something, like IKEA's furniture put together instruction sheet. So where do you actually start? Well, besides possessing a strong dose of empathy, thinking what your learners, what kind of challenges they may have, you can start by asking yourself these 4 questions before you design your content. Why is the learner here? Are they looking to solve a problem? Are they looking to just get something out of the way, get something done very quickly? Does the content look good? So, when you go into something and you see that the fonts are not of an equal size, you see that, the spaces between the headers and the text are uneven, or sometimes, the colors or even the images have watermarks across them, that does not make a very, visually compelling content. So does the content look good? Okay, and does the learner have control over what they learn? Are they able to, go into another chapter? Are they able to move forward if they learn something faster than everyone else? So these are things that you need to consider. And the 4th question, would the learner take your course if it wasn't mandated? So a lot of times, especially with organizations, they come to us to get their anti-money laundering, compliance, code of conduct kind of content to be transformed into digital learning. And, a lot of them, they think, you know what, just scan my entire textbook and put onto the platform. Is digital what? No, it's not, because, if they have no choice and they have to learn, yeah, maybe your completion rate and your engagement rate will be very high. But, is this something that they would voluntarily sign up for if you didn't mandate that piece of learning? So secondly, we need to become storytellers, right? Everyone loves a good story, and lots of research has been shown to show that when you tell a story, people trust you and people are able to absorb the messages that you're trying to send them much better. Stories are a very effective tool when it comes to learning because it appeals to all kinds of learners. And we're looking at the three key types, which is a visual learner, auditory learner, and kinesthetic learner. So visual, they like to look at things, or even when you're telling your story, they are mentally building the environment and that story setting in their heads. And so that is a visual experience for them as well. Kinesthetic would be when you have the pain train, the struggle that you're sharing with the protagonist and the characters in the story. And when they emerge victorious, you feel as if you've lived that story with them and you've learned that lesson. So now you must be thinking, hey, you know what? I'm not a novelist. I'm not going to be able to write a very good story. What can I do? Well, let me tell you this. Anyone can tell a good story if you follow these 3 points. Okay, first of all, you link your personal experience to your lesson. Now, it will be so much easier for you to start building your story if you've actually lived through it. Okay, next, highlight the struggle, share the pain train. So it makes that lesson and the ending so much sweeter when you're able to share that struggle with your learners. I had difficulty doing this, and so with much help from my friends, this is how I managed to overcome these obstacles. Hurrah! Okay, but you can also, while you can emerge victorious, you have to remember to not humble brag. Okay, because a lot of us are kind of like, I'm going to learn this, and I was so successful in this. Yay! Pat myself on the back. No, it doesn't happen like that, because a show off is a turn off. So you must refrain from humble bragging, because your learners are here to learn with you. They're not here to pop the champagne with you. Okay, so a scenario is like a story, except it typically ends with, so now that you have all the facts, what would you do? So scenarios are effective learning tools because you want to make sure your learners understand the concept and they know how to apply it in a real life situation. So making a scenario realistic, you need to think about, okay, if this is something work related, what is a workplace situation that most of your learners will find themselves in, and then call that information that they have just learned and put it to good use. Okay, but one of the things we need to note when we use a scenario, because it's almost as if you're describing something to your friends, use a conversational tone, because no one talks like a code of conduct textbook, right? So then you challenge your learner and ask them how and what they would do if they were to find themselves in a similar situation. Then we think about encouraging our learners to share what they know. So when we think about user-generated content, many of us will call to mind nervous administrators who go, yeah, but what if somebody posts something that's inappropriate, right? So, but you still want to truly engage your learners and you want to give them a sense of ownership. So you give them a chance to contribute. And there are several ways to encourage quality user-generated content. So as an instructor or a designer, set a best example practice. So people will have an idea, okay, so this is the kind of content that, that gets published that people will like. I will try to follow as closely as possible. You manage the process by asking your users to contribute, whether before or after the learning, or you can even ask them a question like, share in comments, what do you think was the biggest challenge you had after learning this thing? You facilitate the process and be a moderator if you have to. And finally, encourage social interaction by allowing people to upvote, like, or even comment on each other's content. And finally, with 3 minutes to spare, finally, pay heed to the production quality of your content. And I'm not talking about becoming a Pixar movie animator or even, producing ad quality visuals, okay? Things like maintaining a consistent font size, using high resolution images, don't have the watermark that says Shutterstock, keeping your visuals to the same color family, reading your copy back to yourself to ensure that it actually sounds good and it reads well. These tiny steps contribute a great deal to how good your content will actually look to the learner. So learning is an experience, and taking steps to ensure that it's a great one will ultimately engage your learner in a meaningful and impactful way. And I hope this presentation has been very helpful to you. Thank you.